What's up everybody, Daniel Day back again with another video for DDay Gaming, and today I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the recently announced Xbox Game Pass. Is this a great idea? Is this really going to add value to the console? That's what we're going to talk about today. If you are into that sort of thing, stick around and I will see you after the break. Okay, so where to start, right? Honestly, I was a little surprised, maybe some of you were too, when I read that Microsoft had announced this. I always figured that Microsoft may eventually go this route, but I didn't expect it to be so soon, and there weren't really any rumors or anything like that popping up ahead of the announcement. It just kind of showed up out of nowhere. So yeah, always pleasantly surprised when those things kind of pop up like that, right? So what is this? Well, it is essentially a subscription service of sorts. You pay Microsoft $9 or $10 a month, and you will be able to download over 100 games and play them as part of a monthly catalog of software that kind of changes from time to time. So similar to Netflix or Amazon video on demand services, stuff will come each month and stuff will leave. Now, Microsoft has clarified that although not everything on there will be there permanently, there will always be over 100 games, and they don't anticipate a whole lot of shifting from month to month, which is to say that a lot of these games, I'm sure, will be there longer than 30 days. So for your money, what are you getting, right? Well, we certainly don't have all of the details yet, but it seems as though you've got a selection of both Xbox 360 games that are available as part of backwards compatibility and Xbox One games that will be included as part of this service. And let's not forget that these games aren't just playable on the Xbox One. Any games that are part of the Play Anywhere strategy that Microsoft has rolled out, which is to say if there are PC compatible ports of some of these games, they will be available as well, all for the same monthly subscription price. Now, we still don't know when they say, what is it, $9, $10 a month, whether that is the only pricing tier for this. Are you paying month to month? Is there some sort of discount if you buy the plan, for 3 months or 6 months or annually? And is that $9 or $10 price point the annual monthly breakdown? Or if you are paying month to month, are you going to pay that amount? And potentially there's some more savings if you pay yearly like you would for your Xbox Live subscription. We don't know yet, right? Microsoft has not announced all of the details for this. They have rolled it out to kind of the A-band preview program members and the rest of the preview program members soon. There are not 100 games available to the preview program members that have access to it, but again, this is just a beta test of sorts to see how all of this works. So yeah, on the surface, this seems a whole lot like a Netflix type service, but for video games. More specifically, it seems a whole lot like Sony's kind of competing service where you pay a flat monthly fee and get access to a lot of games. But there is some key differences there. Some might also say that it seems a lot like EA Access, but just like with PlayStation's service, there are some differences. So let's talk about those now. As far as EA Access is concerned, that is a service that exists on the Xbox One with a cheaper monthly fee, and that gives you access to the vault of EA-specific games, obviously all of those are much older games after a game has been out for a substantial period of time, and sales have slumped quite a bit, it seems. They will take that game and put it in the vault, and then EA Access members can basically have access to it for free as long as they continue to pay for the service. EA Access also provides a discount to all EA games as long as you are a paid member, as well as DLC. And then on top of that, EA Access offers something that currently, as far as we know, the Xbox service does not, and that is the ability to have early access to games. So what EA Access typically does is right around the release time for a game, generally a few days ahead of that, they will let you play the game for a preset number of hours before the thing launches. And sometimes that's just unfettered, unrestricted access for 5 or 10 hours or something like that before the game comes out, which is awesome. And sometimes they limit it to very, very specific modes and things like that, which is a little bit less awesome. But honestly, a game that you're excited for, getting to play it earlier than everybody else, is great. It's just like what Microsoft's been doing frequently here the last several months with their kind of ultimate editions of games, be it Halo Wars 2, Gears of War 4, stuff like that, where you do get several day early access to play those games. Although in their particular case, it absolutely is unfettered access. You're just getting the game early. EA Access places some additional restrictions on that for some odd reason. So that is in essence kind of what makes up EA Access. You've got the vault, you've got the monthly fee that you pay, and you get discounts on the games and the DLC when you choose to buy them, as well as early, kind of timed, very specific circumstance kind of access to most, if not all, of their games. So how does that compare to what we know, at least, of Microsoft's new service? Well, Microsoft's new service costs more a month, but certainly it's giving you access to a lot more games than EA Access is. So there's that. We don't have any confirmation from Microsoft, again, that this service is in any way, shape, or form going to give you early access to anything. Microsoft currently has a different way of doing that, like I mentioned a minute ago, with the Ultimate Editions giving you early access. So I doubt that they're going to want to kind of cut in to those sales, because there probably are some people that would have bought the standard $60 edition of a game, but they go ahead and spend the extra $20 to $40 because part of that value proposition is getting the game 4 or 5 days early, maybe potentially avoiding some spoilers. I doubt that they would want to sacrifice some of those sales for those people by offering early access as part of this thing. So yeah, so that's probably a separate thing. Larger collection of games that you've got access to, because Microsoft is touting over 100 each month. Certainly EA's Access Vault is getting bigger every month, but it is nowhere near 100 games. And it seems as though there are kind of some of the same discount strategies at play there. EA Access, for any EA game, by being a paid member, you get a percentage off of buying the game, even brand new ones, and the DLC associated with those games you also get a discount on as well. And Microsoft is doing the same thing with their service. So on the surface, they look to be basically about the same thing with those key differences. But obviously, Microsoft's service has a lot more games from a lot more publishers than just EA. In fact, there is a question somewhere in there, and that is, are EA games going to be a part of this? So the games that are in EA's vault, for instance, EA is making money because some people subscribing to that service are just doing so to get access to all of those older games. Would putting those games also on Microsoft's new planned service cut in to some of their subscriber base? I suspect the answer is yes, and I suspect that that is why the games that Microsoft has shown off as being a part of this service are not representing games from EA. So maybe at some point in the future they'll be added in, but it would not shock me at all if on launch day for this new service there are no EA games available as part of it. So yeah, clearly by that logic, these services exist independently from one another. They may potentially impact one another, but if EA is keeping their own games only available as part of the vault, it may create a situation where people are going to have to pay for both of these services to have kind of the full catalog of older games that they can play, which is similar to people that pay for both Netflix and, say, Hulu and maybe Amazon Prime on top of that, so that they can have access to everything that's available for streaming here in the United States. So yeah, honestly, like I said, on the surface, they seem like similar services, but I think that they're probably going to be positioned to compete directly with each other. But luckily for people that are into paying for a service where you can play the games, but you don't necessarily own them. EA Access is cheap enough that maybe you can just tack that on to your Microsoft subscription and have both. Now let's turn our attention to Sony's service, which is again on the surface very similar, but there are some key differences. So PlayStation Now is probably more like what Microsoft is doing than EA Access is, which is to say that you've got a very large catalog of games. These games are coming and going on a monthly basis. They're always adding more, and they are frequently removing some of them due to licensing agreements or just to make room. So you pay a flat monthly fee. Now, we don't know, again, if Microsoft is going to allow you to pay for this annually or any other way versus month to month. In Sony's case, they actually don't let you buy it annually. They've got the month-to-month plan, and then there's I can't remember if it's 3 months or 6 month plan that you can pay for, but you cannot pay for an annual one. So I'm interested to see if Microsoft will let you and if there's any kind of cost savings there. But yeah, both of these are going to end up with very, very large catalogs of games that you can play. A couple of key differences there. Sony Service does cost more per month if you're paying monthly, if in fact the $9-10 that Microsoft is quoting is their standard monthly rate. But also, currently at least, that service has always been just basically PlayStation 3 games. Sony's goal with this seems to be, well, one, to make money, obviously, right? But two, the PlayStation 4 does not support PlayStation 3 backwards compatibility at all. Neither did the Xbox One at launch, but that's not the case anymore. You've got access to over 300 Xbox 360 games that you can play natively on your Xbox One, and that list is growing every day. Sony, on the other hand, has not made PlayStation 3 backward compatibility available on the PlayStation 4. So if you traded in your PlayStation 3 to buy a PlayStation 4, for instance, or perhaps never owned one, but you want to tap into that great PlayStation 3 library of games, assuming that they're available on this service, this is your only way to do that without breaking out the PlayStation 3. There's no PlayStation 4 games there, although Sony has announced at this point that that is coming. And Sony Service used to be available on more devices. They have announced basically that they are shuttering that service on all but the PC and the PlayStation 4 itself very, very soon. And, Microsoft is basically going to be available in the same places. It's not going to work on the Xbox 360. It's just for the Xbox One family of consoles, which is later this year going to add the Scorpio into the mix along with the standard Xbox One and Xbox One S, but they also include PC. So you absolutely have feature parity there. And then, of course, the biggest one, the huge one. So Sony's subscription service isn't just a subscription service, it is a streaming service. Now, what that means is that after Sony purchased Gaikai, they are using basically cloud servers to stream the games to you. You are not downloading those games natively and playing them. You are doing so from the cloud. And the reason for that is obvious. The PlayStation 4 cannot play PlayStation 3 games. So there is a server somewhere that is hosting that, and you are playing remotely from your house, which means that all of your controller input and all of that has to go all the way up to the server wherever it is, move the character, and then that is beamed back to you, which creates a pretty noticeable input lag. And to try and kind of conquer that a little bit, Sony does not allow PlayStation 3 games to run in the full resolution and with the same bit rate that you can natively on a PlayStation 3. So at the end of the day, what that means is that that streaming service is full of compromises. There is input lag. The quality is not as good if you were playing those games natively on a PlayStation 3. And of course, if you own a PlayStation 3 game that you want to play on your PlayStation 4, you can't just pop it in and play it. You've got to pay a monthly subscription service and hope that it is available on that service and that it does not go away before you are done with it. You do not own these games. There are no discounts associated with Sony's plan for those games. Not that you could play them on your PlayStation 4 again anyway. And that is kind of the Achilles heel of Sony's service. Now, mind you, in optimal conditions, people that have killer fiber internet connections and happen geographically to be located very, very close to servers that are very, very underutilized can get passable results. But what a lot of people find that care about that sort of thing is that the input lag is enough to kill it, and the fact that the games are more compressed and slightly more muddy when you're playing them, a lot of people are turned off by that. And it's almost as though Microsoft is aware of the problems with PlayStation's solution and have gone out of their way to make sure that they check all the boxes that Sony isn't. And in that sense, I think that this service is more of a competitor to Sony's than it is to that EA Access plan that we were talking earlier. This is not a streaming plan. These games are downloaded natively to your console, for good and for bad. Now, that does mean you're going to need an even larger hard drive to store these things. But basically, when you click the button to play one of those games, you are downloading it. It is just as though you own the game. In fact, they have already clarified that if your console goes offline, you can continue to play that game for up to 30 days before the license has to be revalidated, which is fantastic. So you don't have always online DRM keeping you from playing your game if your internet connection drops. Super, super great. Then on top of that, again, because they're running natively on your console, you're getting full visual fidelity. It is no different than if you installed that game on your hard drive after purchasing it from the Xbox store, which definitely bests Sony's service. It doesn't matter how fast your internet connection is, except to get the game down onto your hard drive. And then you can buy the game at a discount if you decide that you like it and you want to keep it. So say that game is, you've been notified that that game is coming off of the service and you're not done playing it yet, or you just start playing it and you realize, you know what, this is a long-term game, this is something I'm going to keep going back to, maybe the multiplayer has got you hooked. Well, that game is available as part of this service. You can purchase a digital license for the game at a reduced rate. And then on top of that, all of the DLC that is available for it, you can also purchase if you so choose at a reduced pricing, which is fantastic. So basically, at that point, you're not having to even re-download the game. You've already downloaded the game to your hard drive. You can just click buy in the store. There's a discounted price available, like I mentioned, and the little license file downloads super quick, and you're good to go. You can just keep the game. And then you can delete it off your hard drive if for some reason you want to, and later on, just re-download it, whether it is part of the streaming service or not, because again, you now own it. So yeah, all of the benefits of native gameplay as opposed to a streaming service, which is phenomenal. And then on top of this, again, Sony is adding PlayStation 4 games at some point in the future. They have announced, obviously, it's a little convenient that they did not announce that until after Microsoft announced this service, but they are coming. But Microsoft service will launch with both Xbox 360 games and Xbox One games that can be downloaded and played natively, which is fantastic. I would not be shocked at all, honestly, if a large percentage of those games were Xbox 360 games, and then the Xbox One games that are available are going to be older games, maybe first-party games, a lot of those. But at the end of the day, that's a lot of games, and if you don't own most of the games on the Xbox One or the Xbox 360, this is going to give you an opportunity for a flat monthly rate to play those things. They've also announced there's not any limit to how many you can download on your hard drive to play. That's just limited by how much hard drive space you have. So they're also not going to hamstring you by putting you in a situation where you've got to only have, say, 10 of them downloaded at a time or 5 of them downloaded at the time. If you're not on a metered data plan and you've got a bunch of ginormous hard drives hooked up to it, go ahead and download them all. Hopefully you can get to all of them before they roll off the service and you can't play them anymore. But just the same, it's great to have that freedom. And again, based on what we know of Sony's service, it is a streaming service. So even when they do add those PlayStation 4 games in, if things hold true to what we've had with them in the past, you will be streaming those games. You will not be downloading them natively. I hope that Sony changes their mind and they treat those games separate, since they will play natively on the console. But if they stick to this streaming thing, you're now talking about gorgeous PlayStation 4 games that are downscaled, downsampled, and still the input lag thing. Hopefully that will not be the case, but if they follow the course that they have charted out, that they've been on up until this point, that's what you're going to get. You're not going to get native playback. So yeah, it wouldn't shock me if maybe they do that. Maybe they drop the price a little bit once Microsoft launches their competing product. But at the end of the day, what Microsoft has announced so far basically takes all of the gripes that I had about the PlayStation service and goes the exact opposite directions, which, if you can't tell, has got me pretty excited to see where this thing goes in the future. It seems like a really, really good idea. Certainly, I like to own my games forever, but basically, if for $10 a month I can play a bunch of these and then check them out, and if I like them, go ahead and purchase them at a reduced rate, it is entirely possible that the money that I could save picking up a few of those games a month would outweigh what I'm paying for this subscription service, and that has got me excited as well. So anyway, guys, I don't want this to turn into an hour-long video, so this is probably as good a place as any to end things. I just really wanted to talk about this for a minute. We certainly don't have all the facts yet, but kind of point out some of the key similarities and differences to what Microsoft is proposing to do versus what Sony is doing with PlayStation Now and EA is doing with EA Access. So I think that we've accomplished that. So if you've made it this far in the video, I just wanted to say thanks for watching. Wanted to give a special shout out to my subscribers. You guys rock. And if you are watching this and you have not subscribed to my channel, maybe check out some of the other videos, do a little bit of poking around. And if my particular brand of rambling is your sort of thing, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button. It is free for you and helps me out quite a bit. If you want to follow me other places on the internet, you can follow me on Twitter at that DDay guy, and I also stream video games to both YouTube and Twitch. It's the same stuff in both places. I simul stream. Basically, just whatever your preference is. I keep comment sections up for both while I'm live streaming. So if YouTube is your thing, you've already found me. If you don't want to lose me, click that subscribe button. And for those of you that prefer Twitch, my username there is DDay on Twitch. And with that, just want to ask the question to all of you. Do you think this is a great idea? Do you think this is a terrible idea? Are you planning on subscribing to this service, checking it out? Do you think maybe Microsoft should offer like a 1-month free trial to it? Something like that. Let me know in the comment section below. I really love talking with all of you guys. So once again, everybody, just wanted to say thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next one.